So this is the JSON cards. Notice it's plural form. This is from my example, not the example we've been working on. I'm going to quickly go over what data array was, since we had to cut this session short since I had a student right afterwards. Pretty much this entire component or custom HTML is loaded into your app.js. And in here, you have this page, JSON cards, and inside here you have the JSON card. The JSON card has HTML, and that HTML is loading in your choices, your question, your next button, for example, based on this data array. Notice this is not a map. This is just one JSON card. So whatever question we're on, that's based on the current question index. So this data array, current question index, I was trying to be descriptive, but that probably makes it long and harder to decipher. It's actually the same thing as questions square bracket I. So I is what's changing every time the user clicks next or every time the user chooses an answer, right? So, but the problem is importing the JSON file here to be used in your array. That could take a long time because the bigger the file, the longer it takes, and your HTML might render before that is done importing. So what I did was I did best practice. Best practice, the way React developers do it, is you're going to check if the array is empty by first setting the array empty using useState data array equals empty array, and then importing it once the web page is done loading. Once the web page is done loading, then you actually overriding this blank array using the set method, because the useState returns your initial value and the set method, which updates it. The use effect is what lets you update it after the page is done loading. By the time your page is done loading, your test.json is done loading. So that's why you import it. Notice you import line 44 JSON data, and then you set the data array passing JSON data. This will change data array. By changing data array, now data array is no longer empty. It's not going to render a blank HTML in between the header. It's going to render the JSON card. Because that is now defined, it's not going to cause problems. You can pass in queues at index I, or in other words, data array at index current question index. Notice we have a dot notation here, .q, .correct choice, .explanation, because in my example, I actually have arrays of strings. No, sorry, I have array of arrays. Whoa, that's very complicated. I have array of objects. This array, I'm accessing a specific object and I'm accessing a specific key. The way we coded it on your example that we did in the session, we had an array of arrays to make things simple. So you can't just do .explanation, .correct choice, right? And instead of passing each individual data, we pass in the entire question array. We pass this in entirely into the JSON card element that's in another file. And I hope that explains it a lot more. I'm going to close this recording. Go ahead and email me if you have any further questions. This does require a little bit more fluid JavaScript knowledge, because React is sort of like a hackish framework, so you have to use JavaScript in ways you don't usually use.